Good morning, Moray Rabotai. We're continuing on Masechet Avodah Zarah, and we are on Daf Yud Aleph Amud Bet, doing a quick review. The Gemara says 2 dots, 2 lines down. Yom Tiglachat Zakano. We learned in the Mishnah that the day that the goy gets a haircut is considered a Avodah Zarah day, because that's the day that they would be serving the Avodah Zarah. So on a private holiday, so to speak, for a goy, one of the private holidays would be Yom Tiglachat Zikanom Belorito. So the Gemara says, how does the Mishnah read properly? Is it Yom Tiglachat Zikanom Vehanachat Belorito? That means, let me explain the way it used to work. They would grow their hair, and this was actually a big production, still is a big production in the East and in the Far East countries. Still they have culture that they let the hair grow, and then they go to their temples and they shave the hair in front of the Avodah Zarah. And this actually becomes a big question whether or not it's considered tikrovet Avodah Zarah. This is an issue that has come up in previous decades, and 10 years ago, but about a decade ago, this came up with full force again in the shaitel industry, whether or not this is Indian hair, and Indians, the Hindus, they still have this custom in the millions, that every year there are over 1 million people that they go and they shave their head, they grow their hair long, depending on how many years they do it, and so on. This has been a cultural thing from the time prior to the Gemara, and still is in existence in many of the Far East countries, which really creates a challenge on the hair, because if it is considered tikrovet Avodah Zarah, then you're not allowed to even own it. Forget about wearing it and having hana'ah from it. You're not allowed to even own something that is tikrovet Avodah Zarah, as we'll see in the later dapim in the Gemara. But nevertheless, says the Gemara, they used to grow their hair, and then at some point they would start, l'shem Avodah Zarah, for the Avodah Zarah, they would grow their ponytail, what we call ponytail, the hair in the back of their hair. They would shave the entire head aside from the so-called ponytail, and they would also shave their beard. So then they would grow the ponytail, l'shem Avodah Zarah, for a long time, and then at the end of the year, they would have another ceremony, shaving off the ponytail, also for Avodah Zarah. So says the Gemara, which one is it? Is it 1 day, or is it 2 days that are both considered Avodah Zarah? Is it Yom Tiglachat Zekano Vehanachat Belorito, which is the one and the same day that they would shave their beard off, and also the entire head, aside from the blorit, Vehanachat Belorito, they would just leave the blorit on, and that would be 2 things explaining the same day, so that hence would be only 1 day of Avodah Zarah. Or is it Yom Tiglachat Zakano, and also Yom Tiglachat Belorito? That would mean 2 days. 1 day would be the day that you shave your beard and your head, and of course you leave the blorit. And then another day, which would be at the end of the year, which would be the day that you clear off the blorit, also l'shem Avodah Zarah, when you shave the ponytail, so to speak, for Avodah Zarah as well. Hence would be 2 days of Avodat Kochavim. So says the Gemara, Odilma Yom Tiglachat Zakano v'Avodat Belorito. Tashma. The Gemara says, the Tani Tarvaihu. We have learned both of them. Yom Tiglachat Zakano v'Hanachat Belorito. That's 1 day. V'Yom Tiglachat Zakano v'Ha'avarat Belorito, which is the second one. Hence, the Gemara is saying that both of those days are considered private days of Avodat Kochavim. Hence, both of them will be Asur. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel. Od echad yesh lahem. There is another holiday for the pagans, for the Bnei Romi, the Romans, the Christians, that the Abbats writes, they used to actually have this until recent times, but it stopped being after a while. Now, this is a very interesting one. It's almost like a Agadic Gemara. And this would be Achad l'shivim shana. Once in 70 years, that they would celebrate the dominance of Esav over Yaakov Avinu. How would they do that? How do you celebrate the dominance of Esav? They would bring a healthy person, Mevi'in Adam Shalem, They would bring a healthy person. They will put him on the shoulders of a lame person, because Yaakov Avinu, in his battle with Esav, with Saro shel Esav, he became Kaf Yerech Yaakov, right? Kaf Yerech Yaakov. He became lame because he was hit on his upper thigh, and even though it's very interesting actually, even though who won? Of course, Yaakov Avinu won that battle, and Saro shel Esav was moded to the brachot. He gave him a bracha, all of that. But this is politics 101. You could present whatever you want, the way you want it, and you only see the part that you want to take out of this story. So Yaakov became lame, and they would present Yaakov as a lame person, and Esav is the one riding on top of him. And they would make him wear Bigdei Adam Harishon. How do they have Bigdei Adam Harishon? Because Nimrod had the Beged of Adam Harishon. This was the Beged that HaKadosh Baruch Hu made Kotnot Or Ve'Yalbishem. And this was a very special one because he had this tzura of all the animals on it, and every Baal Chai would be in awe and reverence and fear of the person wearing this. So it was a very special thing. So Nimrod had it, and who killed Nimrod? Esav killed Nimrod in that day that it says, Vayavo Esav min hasadeh v'hu ayef, the day that he sold the Bechorah. So this is very much reminiscent of that day that Yaakov took away, so to speak, the Bechorah from Esav. Because that, again, Esav that day had gained this Bigdei Esav benach hamudot, and they would wear this on top of this guy on the top. There was a healthy person representing Esav, so to speak. And they would put the skin of the head of Rabbi Ishmael. Now the Gemara says, in the Gemara Vasara Arugei Malchut, in Masechet Gitin Avnunav, the Gemara there says that the daughter of the Kesar, when he saw that the Rabbi Ishmael Kohen Gadol and Rabbi Gamliel were brought out to be killed the same day, she came out and she saw the beauty of Rabbi Ishmael Kohen Gadol. After that, killed already the Nasi, Rabbi Gamliel, and she pleaded with her father that they should not kill this one because he was so beautiful. He was gorgeous, and she said, I want to keep him alive to just gaze at his beauty. Chaval, look at this. You're gonna kill this beauty? Al-Hay Shufra de Bali Bara. And the father said, no way. We have to kill him. You have to kill him. So she said, at least skin him alive, and this way I could preserve the skin with the bottom layer of the flesh in order to preserve it in Shemen Afar Semon. Apparently Shemen Afar Semon preserves the skin the way it was. It does not let it, not just decompose, but shrivel and become ugly and darkened. And she wanted to keep it, to gaze at it at all time, and that's what they did with the face, the head really seems from here, not just the face, but the head of Rabbi Ishmael Kohen Gadol. So that apparently was kept in the Malchut Romi, and they would bring once in 70 years this thing, and they would place it on this person at the top wearing Bigdei Adam Harishon. So those are the two things, right? The beauty of control over all the animal kingdom, which is the Beged of Adam Harishon, and the beauty of Jewish people, right? Rav Tzadok HaKohen Milublin writes, anytime that beauty is mentioned in Resisei Laila, he writes this, anytime that beauty is mentioned in Tanakh, in Chazal, is the reflection of real, true Yirat Shamayim, right? That glorifies the person's body in a spiritual way. So that's like the spiritual beauty of Klal Yisrael that they took for themselves. The Yofi of Klal Yisrael with the control over the world. So it's a very meaningful thing. It's not just a arbitrary thing that they did. So says the Gemara, V'talule betzavare mitkal resh zuzah. The Pisa, they would bring tremendous amount of Even Tovah, massive Even Tovah of a very heavy weight, and put on his neck. And all of the marketplaces of Romi would be designed with Avnei Inach, with tremendous precious stones. Can you imagine? This was a party of a lifetime. And says the Gemara, and they would this person, the lame person, will be limping, walking underneath this guy sitting on him. In all of the shvakim of Romi, in all of the marketplaces of Romi, everyone was there watching this. And somebody would actually announce in front of him, Sach kiri plaster, that Rashi says, the cheshbon of Adon Zeh, referring to Yaakov Avinu, the cheshbon that he wanted to say, Yaakov Avinu at the end of his life wanted to be Magaleh Ketz, right? He wanted to say the end of the world when the Jews are going to be Nigal, of them being redeemed. And they would say, Sach kiri plaster. The whole thing was mizuyaf, was a forgery. Look at this. They're not saved. Actually, the Rabbeinu Hananel writes the reason for this would be 70 years is because right? Will be because we the regular person is Shivim Shana, and also the Tar Chaim writes that the Romans, after they destroyed the Beit HaMikdash, they waited 70 years because they thought, just like in the first Mikdash, Yirmiyahu Navi said, you're going to go to Galut for 70 years, and then you're going to be Nigal, you're going to be redeemed. They thought maybe the same thing is going to happen to the second Mikdash as well. So they were very concerned. They waited 70 years, and they saw, it didn't happen. They partied the dominion over the Jewish nation. Again, you have to understand that as we saw in the Gemara previously, that the Yivanim and the Romans, they took the Tanakh extremely seriously. They knew that there is God. They knew that HaKadosh Baruch Hu governs the world. And they knew that He threw the Jews in the Galut, so they were afraid of Hashem. They had that level of Yirat Hashem, as we saw before, right? They could debate based on psukim, and the Jews were like, the cream of the crop in their eyes, even because they were the nation who held the Torah. So therefore, they waited 70 years, and then they celebrated that, okay, Hashem is not saving them. And according to some Rishonim, every 70 years, they would wait, maybe Hashem is going to wait another 70 years. Or, according to others, it would be a commemoration of the first 70 years that they waited, and Hashem did not save them. So therefore, it would be a once-in-a-lifetime, glorified party of a Yom Ed for them to see that this is not going to happen anymore, right? So they would party once in 70 years, and they would say the Cheshbon of Yaakov, was the Tosafot, does not agree with the Rashi. He says what? They're calling Yaakov Adon. Sach kiri is Adon, right? They will not call Yaakov Adon. So what they're saying is a reference to Yitzchak Avinu. Because Esav, we know, there's one mitzvah that he kept well. What was that mitzvah? Kivud Avayim. They had tremendous respect for even Yitzchak Avinu, not just for Esav, their master, but even for their grandfather, so to speak, Yitzchak Avinu. So they said, the brachot that Yitzchak wanted to give to Esav, and he ended up giving it to Yaakov by cheating, those brachot never came through. Look at where we are now, and look at where they are now. They are subordinated to us. They are in Galut. We have killed them. We have destroyed the Beit HaMikdash. We took everything away from them. And still, here we go with the dominion that we have. The brachot actually turned back to us, not to them. So, Sach kiri plaster means the cheating that Yaakov did to take the brachot from our great-grandfather, Yitzchak, did not help him anything, and we are here, ruling over the Bnei Yaakov. So that was the main core of this holiday, and it says Achwat de Marana Zaifana. The brother of our master, that means brother of Esav, Yaakov Avinu, was a Zaifana, was a cheater, was a forger. So says the Gemara, "De chami chami, odo lo chami lo chami." Whoever sees it today will see it, and whoever doesn't see it today perhaps will never see it again. Because again, it's once in 70 years, and if you are smart enough, developed enough to understand it, you're probably 7-8 years old already, right? And next time he's going to come along, you're going to be almost 80 years old, which again, the average life expectancy was not necessarily that long. But he says maybe you're never going to see this again. This is your once in a lifetime chance to see. They would continue to say, what did the cheater gain from the cheating that he did. In other words, Yaakov Avinu tried to grab the brachot from our grandfather Esav, and look, what did it help him? He helped him nothing. And then they would end the whole cruise, the whole announcement, with one truthful word. And they would say, Vailedin kad yakum din. Woe to the Esav if Yaakov gets up. Right? Woe to the Esav, because again, it says, we're coming off of the Gemara in the previous daf of Rebiva Antoninos, right? That the nevuah that was given to Rivka Imenu, of Shnei Goyim bebitnech u'Shnei Leumim me'ayich yiparedu, that you are carrying two nations in your belly in the pregnancy, u'le'om mile'om yemas, and one of them will always be stronger. Which Chazal explained, if Romi is built, Yerushalayim is destroyed, and vice versa. So the day that the Jews will stand up, then that will be the downfall of Esav. So they themselves even knew, but they would say this quietly, right? Amar of Ashi, this would be something that they would say quietly, that we are recognizing that at some point in future the Jews are going to have a tkuma, right? Ule'om mile'om yemas. They're going to stand, and they're going to have the final, so to speak, stance in the world. And in that moment would be woe to Esav, and that would be the last thing they would say quietly over here. And says the Gemara, Maravashi, Hichshilan PM, l'rashayim. It says, even the wording that they used was ba'ashgacha, because if they would say, is a cheater the brother of our father, there would be, like they said. But now that they said, the marana zaifana, achwat the marana zaifana, then they're saying, brother marana zaifana, that our master is a zaifan. That means a reference to Esav himself, that Esav was a cheater, so to speak. Says the Gemara, why is it that our Tanah did not count this as one of the holidays? The Mishnah does not count. This is pretty interesting stuff, actually, right? Once in 70 years, this is the juiciest one. Why didn't our Tanah, this was a day of Avodah Zarah, par excellence, this is once in 70 years, they would do all the Avodah Zarah in the world on that day. So why wouldn't the Tanah mention it? It says the Gemara, the high itam bechol shata v'shata kachashiv, derata bechol shata v'shata lo kachashiv. Any of the ones that are not recurring every year, the Tanah does not count. This is once in a lifetime. This is not as important, as prevalent and common for the Tanah to count. Our Tanah is counting the yearly ones, the regular fiscal year, so to speak, around the calendar Avodah Zarahs, but not the ones that come once upon a time. So this is the Gemara. Hari de Romai. This is the Avodah Zarah days of the Romans. But the Jews in the time of the Gemara did not only have the Roman influence, but they also had the Persian influence. They lived within Paras Umadai, right? A lot of the government of the region was still the minhagim of Paras Umadai, because again, Rome was not necessarily until later on when they started enforcing Christianity. Until then, they just wanted the government. They didn't care really about the religion. So a lot of the Persian, things that they had pagan things that they had, Zoroastrians and so on. The Gemara in Sanhedrin explains the beliefs of the people in that region, that they believed in two different gods, of a positive force and a negative force. The Ramchal in that Tvunot, in Chelek Aleph, he actually explains the 5 different tainas, and one of them is this Zoroastrian thing of, if Hashem is good, then he can't do bad. If there are bad things in the world, then Hashem is not the source of it. It's like, there's this person that, so-called the rabbi, was a conservative person that unfortunately lost a child in a very, very tragic way. He had a very unique circumstance, this child, and he passed away, only child, and so on. And he wrote a book No, not why, because he actually says it's not called why, because there's no reason, rhyme and reason. It's kfirah. He says when bad things happen to good people, and so on. That's really in its core as a Zoroastrian thing, that they believed to God of good and bad. Because of that, they would call it Hormizvah, Huramiz in the language of the Gemara. We actually grew up with this. The people who had Zoroastrian friends, I had one, and I would research the things of the Gemara from him. I used to ask him, like, do you guys really worship fire? This is a bizarre thing. He said, well, we don't worship it, we daven towards the fire. Right? They still do that to some extent, even though that they were killed and forced into Islam by the Islamic revolution, so to speak, that spread throughout the Middle East and then to Europe until the gates of Vienna. We're talking about until 1920s, the mid 1920s and 1924, when the Industrial Revolution of Europe really gave enough funding to push back the things to the eastern countries still, and Ataturk in Turkey basically stopped the caliphate and so on and so forth. But again, that mindset was very prevalent in Paras, in Are Paras Umadai, which is the Babylonian Empire. It was handed over. It was much larger than what's called Paras in Iran nowadays. And that mindset was there of positive and negative forces, and they had real pagan holidays for this. Still, they have this, for those who know Charsham Besuri, they surrounding the fire, going around it and singing to it and jumping over it and so on. That is a Zoroastrian holiday, a real pagan Avodah Zarah holiday that has been now, basically chocolate covered with other things, has become like a business day for many people and a dangerous day for others. But nevertheless, that and have seen and other things are still things that are there. But again, the Gemara has the, names that are not necessarily very familiar for us. The Gemara says the Parsaimai. So it says Mutradi v'Turiski Moharniki Moharin Hanit Parsai v'Dormai. But the Bablaimai, what's the Babylonian ones? And the Gemara gives a number of names for that as well. Moharniki v'Aknitia and v'Chanuni v'Eser Badar. So those are the Babylonians, the Persians, and the Romans, the governments and empires that affected the Jewish life in its time. So says the Gemara, Amar Rav Chanan bar Rav Chisda Amar Rav ve'Amar Amar Rav Chanan bar Rava Amar Rav Chamisha Batei Avodat Kochavim Kvuin Hen. There are 5 in the region that they lived in. There are 5 kavua set Batei Avodah Zarah, temples of Avodah Zarah. The Gemara is going to momentarily discuss what the difference is. Halachically speaking, who cares if it's kavua or it's not kavua? Says the Gemara, the names of them are Eluhen, Bet Bal beBavel, Bet Nevo beKursia, Tarata shebemafeg, and Srifa shebashkelon, Nishta shebeAravia. Okay, Kiata Rabdimi, when Rabdimi came from Arava, from Israel, Hosifu Alem, he said that they added Yerit shebe'en Bechi and Nidbacha shebe'ako. And there are those who say that Nitraba shebe'ako, sorry, Nitbara shebe'ako, and Rabdimi min Arda, he changes the names around a little bit. He's Matni Ifcha, Yerit shebe'ako, and Nidbacha shebe'en Bechi. So, be that as it may, there are a number of set Batei Avodah Zarah, temples of the Goyim, that the Gemara counts here. And of course, the obvious question is, who cares? I mean, it's a Bet Avodah Zarah, it's a Bet Avodah Zarah. It's asur to walk in it. So what's the halachic nafkamina? Like, why do I care if there's a big one, this one is a small one, it's a minor league? Says the Gemara, Amar le Rav Chanan bar Rav Chisda, Rav Chisda, he asked his father, my kivuin. What do you mean kivuin hen? So Amar, he said, your grandfather, who you are named after, Rav Chanan bar Rava was his grandfather, right? So the father is telling the son, he says, my shver, my father-in-law, who was your grandfather, your mother's father, who was Rav Chanan bar Rava, he's explained, kivuin hen lo olam. That means they are always partying for Avodah Zarah. Every single day they have, these are large temples of Avodah Zarah, in which every single day there's something going on for Avodah Zarah. Every single day there is a chag of Avodah Zarah in this, because the clientele they have, the larger temples, every day a group of people come and so on. So there's something going on for Avodah Zarah, and then Afkamina is, you cannot do business with them year round. The surrounding area of these large temples, of people who are connected with them, you cannot do business with them during the course of the entire year, because every day something's going on. It's not a specific Yamim Tovim that they have. The whole day is Mishtel Tamid. The whole year is partying for Avodah Zarah. This is the Gemara. Amar Shmuel. This is a Gemara that we promised to learn, and we mentioned it in Daf Bet, all the way back in the beginning of the Gemara, Daf Bet and Daf Gimel. We said that the first Mishnah, the initial Mishnah in the Gemara, said that Shlosha Yamim Kodem, 3 days before, you can't do business with the Ovdei Kochavim. And we went through a whole debate if it's 3 plus 1 or is it 2 plus 1. We mentioned that the Maskana of the Gemara is 3 plus 1, so 4 days you can't do. And then if you remember, we mentioned the Shita of Shmuel is that in Galut, it's only the day of. So it's 4 minus 3. Instead of being 4 days Asur, it's only 1 day Asur, the day of the Chag. The rest of the days before Mutar, you could do business with them. Why? So here is where the Gemara brings this Shmuel. Amar Shmuel, Begola eno asur ela yom edam bilvad. In the Galut, when you're not in Eretz Yisrael and you don't run the government, if you mess with the Goyim and you're not doing business with them and you're staying away from them, that is calling and asking for trouble. You're living with the Goyim, you have to be very careful in that. And therefore, the day of is Asur, we're not Choshesh, we're Mekel on the rest of the 3 days prior to Chagam, to their holidays. This is the Gemara. V'yom Edam Nami, mi Asir. The Gemara says, what? Yom Edam, the day of itself is Asur? Even that seems to be from elsewhere, that was Mutar. V'ha Rav Yehuda. Rav Yehuda was a Talmud of Shmuel, right? This is a member of Shmuel. So Rav Yehuda, his Talmud, said, Shara Rav Bruna, he made it mutar, he made it psak lehakel for Rav Bruna lezabuni chamra, or Rav Gida lezabuni chitin. He made it mutar for them to buy items, wine and produce and so on, bechagat hatayai, in the Yom Chag of the Tayayim, of the merchants. Right? They had this holiday of the merchants that they would do Avodah Zarah, and he made it mutar for them to do it on the day of Chag. So this is the Gemara. Shani Chag Tatayi, the Lokavia. Says that's very different, because that's a very weak holiday. How do I know that's a very weak holiday? Because some years they don't even do it. Hey, if they feel like it, they'll do it. If they don't feel like it, they don't even do it. That means they're not really aduk, they're not attached to the Avodah Zarah. If they would care about the Avodah Zarah enough, they would religiously celebrate it every year. The fact that you see they don't even celebrate it every year means they don't really care about it. And even if they're going to do Avodah Zarah on that day, your business that you're going to give them certainly is not going to add any element of Avodah Zarah. They're not going to be running to the Avodah Zarah thanking him that this Jew gave me some business. So therefore, Shmuel held that this specific Avodah Zarah of the Chag, of the Tayayim, of the merchants is not a big deal. You could even do business with them on the day of, and therefore it will be mutar. Now the next Mishnah we're going to start is going to be about vicinities of Avodah Zarah. So let's start the Mishnah. Says the Mishnah, if you have a town that does Avodah Zarah, it's only the town itself that are connected with Avodah Zarah. That's Asur. Outside of it is Mutar, right? That means you have the surrounding neighborhoods of the town outside, Mutar to do business with them. Even though that they are, so to speak, subordinated to the town, there are neighborhoods around the town, they identify with this town. If they're not actually doing the Avodah Zarah that the people of the town do, it's mutar to do business with the outside people. And vice versa, says the Gemara, if you have Avodah Zarah only outside of it, inside of it will be mutar to do business. Says the Gemara, says the Mishnah, something very interesting. The Mishnah asks a question. If you have a town, the people of the town today, they're doing Avodah Zarah. Can you go to the town? You're not interested to do any business with them. You just want to go there for a different reason. There are some beautiful waterfalls. You want to go there for a different reason. Is it mutar to go, or is it considered marit ayin? That means the onlooker would say, oh, well, a second, I thought Reuben was from. look at this. He's going to this town over today. You know what's happening in this town? They're partying for Avodah Zarah. Must be that this guy inside, and they say, he's a double personality. He's actually doing Avodah Zarah. He's going there, right? Says the Mishnah. It depends. If the derech only goes to that makom and nowhere else, then it is considered asur. But if there is another place that you could go from there, then it will be mutar. Now, we're going to explain this Mishnah tomorrow, but just a quick thing that Rashba writes, that if you have other Jews, or this guy lives there, there's no other Jews, but this guy lives there himself, the Piskei HaRosh writes, even if you have one other Jew that's there, right? Others maybe disagree with that, but from Yerushalmi you see the Rosh himself writes that. From Yerushalmi you see that only if the guy lives himself there, but not other people, unless there's a community, then the Shach says that if you have a small minyan of Jews, then it's mutar. But if you have other reasons to be there, that people understand, the guy lives there, or the guy has a friend there, there's another Jew or Jewish community, then it will be mutar. Now, why is this so important? I'll give you an example of Rav Moshe Feinstein, and then we'll discuss this maybe tomorrow. Rav Moshe Feinstein speaks about going to vote, when you have American votes, where do they hold the polls?
Church.
In churches, right? So can you go to a church, right, which would be because the Ritva writes, the Ritva over here writes, that's not just a town, but it's also a small place of Avodah Zarah that you can't go. If you're going to the church and everyone says that you're going to the church, why are you going to the church? It's Bet Avodah Zarah. Aside from the Isur of Avodah Zarah, there's this problem of Marit Ayin. So Moshe Feinstein speaks about whether or not it's mutar to go vote in a church when people look at you and say, I thought Michael was from. He's going to this place. What is he doing over there? Must be he's doing Avodah Zarah, right? Whether or not that would be mutar is something that Be'ezrat Hashem will discuss in days to come.